Greetings, fellow paddlers. My name is Kyle Simpson. I'm the Sanctuary Manager for the Chattanooga Audubon Society. But today I'm just a kayaker who enjoys South Chickamauga Creek. It's a beautiful, beautiful stream that runs right through the middle of Chattanooga. It's accessible in a lot of different places and just an easy place to get to for a couple hours for a whole day on the water. And one of the things we've found at Audubon Acres is that one of the biggest obstacles that keeps people off of the creek is knowing what to expect on the water, knowing where they can put in, where they can take out, what it's going to look like. And South Chickamauga Creek is a really wonderful creek for beginning paddlers, for families. I take my kids on it all the time. And so we're going to try and cover just a little bit of the basics of accessibility to South Chickamauga Creek so that hopefully you will find it more accessible in the future and check out this beautiful stream that runs right through the middle of our great city. What we're going to cover today is South Chickamauga Creek from Graysville, which is in Georgia, all the way down to the Tennessee River. I will not be covering Ringgold down to Graysville, although I do have those distances listed on our website, and they'll be later on in this video because I haven't paddled it yet. West Chickamauga Creek also offers a lot of options. That starts down around Chickamauga. You can put in at Lee and Gordon Mills and go past the battlefield, and West Chickamauga Creek empties into South Chickamauga Creek there at Camp Jordan at East Ridge on the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway. So here we go. Want to be clear going in that paddling any boat under any circumstances, always carries a certain measure of risk. Creeks can rise quickly, and I don't want to say anything today that would make you think that you should not be prepared, that you should not take good precautions about letting people know where you're going, taking a buddy with you if this is the first time for you, and not getting in over your head. Please keep good sense about you as we're in all your adventures, especially those on South Chickamauga Creek. It really is a very safe, very paddleable, and accessible waterway for novice paddlers and for families. But just so we've got all our bases here, got to be careful. So, I am not a certified paddling instructor. My advice on paddling South Chickamauga Creek and pretty much everything else for that matter should be disregarded entirely. So, there, I've set it up front, and we'll move on from there. Couple pictures from up and down South Chickamauga Creek. It's just an absolutely beautiful stream up and down. As you can see through here, it's pretty level, pretty calm in most places. Got pictures of my kids, friends with their kids paddling around here. With a little bit of preparation and good sense, there shouldn't be any obstacles that keep you from enjoying this beautiful waterway. So, South Chickamauga Creek is one of the larger watersheds in Chattanooga. So this is the water area that is drained by South Chickamauga Creek over here in the turquoise. Drains pretty much all of East Ridge, farther out into past East Brainerd, out into Appleton a little bit, and then this map doesn't cover a significant portion of the watershed, which is down in Georgia. Everything from Chickamauga down through the battlefield, Ringgold. It's one of the larger tributaries for the Tennessee River in our area, so it's kind of no surprise that it has a good bit of water in it and is paddleable even in pretty dry circumstances. We're going to start off today working our way down from Graysville, which is down here. So if you've never been to Graysville before, you can get there by going out East Brainerd Road, and then there's the Graysville Road comes into that right there. They just built that new Walmart right there. There's a pharmacy on the station on the corner, and if you get down to Ace Hardware, you've gone a little bit too far. So Graysville Road comes down to the south, comes over the Georgia-Tennessee line, and to get to the put-in point there, you'll have to make a hard right turn across the train tracks. The creek is just on the other side from there. We're going to work our way down through Audubon Acres, which is over here. This is Camp Jordan, this large green area right there. We'll talk about Brainerd Road. Sturchy Farm is farther up here. I lose track of Sturchy Farm, actually. It's somewhere up in this area. And then, of course, South Chickamauga Creek empties into the Tennessee River down here, a couple miles above downtown. So we'll walk down through it. Here's a closer map of Graysville. So here you can see Audubon Acres is up at the top part of the screen. There's screen something. East Brainerd Road up there. There again, you'll go out Graysville Road. There's, the Graysville Methodist Church is there, and you go past that. And then if you keep on going, you get into downtown Graysville, but you're actually going to want to cross, take a right turn right there, and you'll get out across the creek from the mill structure, which sits over here on this side. It's about a 4-mile paddle from Graysville down to Audubon Acres, which is the next point that you could take out if you were paddling down South Chickamauga Creek. So you're looking at, you generally figure paddling about 2 miles per hour is what most shuttle rental companies target. So 4-mile paddle, you're looking at about 2 hours. It's a great morning trip. Get out on the water before it gets too hot. You're taken out by lunchtime. So a beautiful, beautiful stretch of creek. I also want to talk about Graysville up above the dam. If you look over here in the background of the picture, you'll see it's very level. So the dam running across South Chickamauga Creek at Graysville there at the mill does present an obstacle for portaging around, for doing longer trips downstream to Audubon, to Camp Jordan, on down to the river. But it's also a really nice spot from there upstream if you're looking for a simple put in, take out at the same point, taking kids out with you. I've got one of my favorite paddling buddies here in the picture with me. The dam pretty much creates a miniature lake where there's not much current, not much flow. If you've got a brand new boat, you're looking for somewhere to try it out, this is an excellent place. You're not going to have motorized boats running around like you are up on the lake. There's about, I'd say ballpark, generally around 2 miles that you can paddle upstream. Maybe a little bit more than that, actually, just depending on the water flow, where you can put in at the mill, paddle upstream before you start running into rocky areas and currents and a more natural flow to the creek. So a great spot. We'll talk about accessibility there in just a sec. So here's a picture of the mill, which runs across the entire width of South Chickamauga Creek. This is Swanson's Mill. I sometimes slip and call it Graysville Mill. It's the mill at Graysville, Swanson's Mill. It's been there a very long time. It was burned during the Civil War, I believe. It's now a private residence, currently up for sale, if you know anyone who's looking to buy a historic structure. And so that dam is probably about a 7 or 8 foot drop. So definitely not something that you want to just try and shoot over on your boat. Jump down to there, not the right way to get around this. Low head dams like that can cause some crazy currents around the base of them, around the top of them too. So you really want to give these structures a pretty wide breadth. Because there are situations you can get into if you get too close to them where it can force your boat underwater, trap you under currents. Just stay away from them, okay? Is what I'm getting at there. Here's an aerial view of the the Graysville put-in points. So let's see. This is East Brainerd Road up there, or Graysville Road, I'm sorry. Graysville Road coming down, and then this would take you into Graysville, whereas if you're coming back over towards Indian Springs or back on up into East Ridge, you'll come out this way here. So the mill is over here on the west bank. The dam runs across the main section right there. There's a small island right there in the middle, and then a smaller section of the dam. It's only about, I'd say, 3 or 4 feet tall on this side. There's the new bridge here, the old bridge, and the accessibility down here has changed a little bit here just in the last couple weeks. So you'll see there's this nice big parking lot right here that for many, many years has been a very popular put-in point, but it's on private property is what it amounts to. And the property owner there has decided that they don't want people coming down and using that lot anymore. They've had a lot of issues with trash, tires being dumped, just all sorts of beer cans, shenanigans, stuff like that, which we see a good bit of at Audubon Acres too, so I can completely understand. As it is now, there's a chain barrier running across the entrance to that parking lot right about there, so there's room for maybe 1 or 2 cars right there. There's no signs indicating that you're not allowed to park along the side of the road, which to me is really the only other option that's left there. So if you're going to be putting in here, that's kind of what you're looking at. So you'll put in up here just outside the barrier. The property owners, very understanding that people have a right to get down to the water for paddling, for fishing, for other things. They just don't want to have issues with people dumping entire loads of tires and stuff like that there in the parking lot. So you're looking at about probably a 30-yard portage. You get into the water here. There's a fence running right there that's going to keep you from getting down any farther that way. You'll go underneath the older bridge, and what I would recommend is portaging across that island. There's a fairly well-worn trail. There again, be careful around the dam, especially if the water's up high. Currents can be strong, and so once you get in, paddle there again, maybe 100 feet, you get across that little island there. From there, it's a straight shot for quite a ways on down. So also there you could, like I mentioned earlier, put in, paddle upstream. As you can see, it's wide, it's flat, there's not much current, not much ripples. It's basically a small lake. No motorized boats on it, and a nice array of wildlife that you can see. It makes, like I said, a great put in and take out one-point trip. So if you don't feel like getting into shuttling or leaving a car downstream and having a buddy pick you up, or however you decide to work it out, that's an excellent option. We're going to work our way on down the creek from Graysville. There is one area, I don't want to say hazardous, but can get a little tricky. Keep in mind that things change quite a bit depending on how high the water is. I'm guessing this is, I don't know, the water is probably about typical flow here. It can get quite a bit higher during the summer. It can probably get a good bit lower higher during the winter, lower during the summer. This is the Council Fire Golf Course up here. Give you sort of an idea where you're at. You're probably coming in on the state line. Is going to be just a little bit farther down. And there's a bit of a rock garden right through here, as you can tell. So the water mostly flows down to the left side. Seems to be where there's more of a flow, more of an opening for boats to get through a little bit easier. But I think you could also walk a boat through there on the right-hand side if that just wasn't something you wanted to navigate. With rapids, and I say rapids in quotations because it's not the Ocoee, it's not the Hiwassee. This is really pretty tame as far as things go. Really, the danger to you here is tipping your boat over and would be hitting your head on a rock. The water, for the most part, is going to be shallow enough that you can stand up in it if you fall in, especially right through here in the rapids. I did it with a couple friends 2 weeks ago, and we were dragging bottom through there more than anything else. So that's just kind of what you're looking for. It's really not that bad a stretch to get through, but did want to mention it. Like I said, typically you can get through over here on the left-hand side. If you wanted to avoid the swifter current on that side, I think you could just get out and walk your boat through the rocks over here on the right-hand side and avoid a lot of that stuff. But that's really it downstream from Graysville. That's maybe a mile and a half down. It's not that bad an obstacle. Moving on down, we get here to Audubon Acres. So here's South Chickamauga Creek, comes around, almost kind of gets lost in the trees, which means you're paddling in the shade. I'm a big fan of that. See, that's the railroad track coming over there, the Audubon Acres Visitor Center right there. And so we've got a couple different places that you can get down to the water here at Audubon Acres. Our upper access point is right here. This is the Ford of Youth. There's a shallow place in the creek where you can wade. If you were out hiking trails on this side and you wanted to get over here to like Little Owl's Village, which is this mode area over there, you could wade through the creek. Our founder, Robert Sparks Walker, called it the Ford of Youth. He believed that if you entered into one side of the creek there, you'd come out on the other feeling younger. I can attest to that. I did that a couple times today. So from the Ford of Youth down past the swinging bridge to the main canoe launch here at Audubon Acres, which is just downstream of the railroad crossing, is 9/10 of a mile. So there again, if you're looking for a put in, take out, and one stop kind of paddling trip, this is also a really good place to check out. We allow folks to drive over across the railroad tracks right there and come down and drop off boats or inner tubes right there, but you'll need to bring your car back up here to the parking lot. After that, if you're in a sedan especially, I would walk that trail before you drive it. It's pretty narrow, and there's a pretty tight turnaround at the end. Trucks, SUVs, no problem, but if you have a chance, walk it before you put your car down there, because it's a long backup to get out of the woods if you decide you're not in the right vehicle for that. The main canoe launch up here, on the other hand, is wide gravel road all the way down to it. We park cars down there during the events. There is tons of extra room. This is, I would argue, probably the easiest to use launch on South Chickamauga Creek. You can drive up within about 15 feet of the water. There's a set of railroad tie built steps going down to the water's edge there. You can get right up to it. You can leave your car parked there all day. That's all right with us. And so whether you're meeting here and leaving a car and going back up to Graysville, or putting in here and going farther downstream, that's a very easy to use launch. I don't think there's a launch you can get closer to with your car anywhere on the creek. The swinging bridge is down here. You'll paddle underneath that. If you're coming down from Graysville, that's going to be the very first structure that you pass underneath, down below the Graysville Dam anyway. There's a great little beach area right there next to the bridge. It's a great spot to pull out, take a picnic lunch, hang out for a little bit. Audubon Acres is a nonprofit organization. They receive no taxpayer funding whatsoever, so if you're going to be using the hiking trails, they do charge a daily admission for the day. You can also get a membership. Is $45 for the year. Covers your family, your friends, and helps maintain what I would probably say is the crown jewel of South Chickamauga Creek. This is the largest preserved for wildlife tract anywhere up and down the creek, and really just a beautiful spot. So the front gate up here does close after hours. Right now we're open 9 to 5 Monday through Saturday, 1 to 5 on Sundays. So do make sure you've got your car out by then, or you'll be locked in. Visitor center's right up here. Restrooms, drinks for sale. Stop in and see them. If you haven't, it's a cool spot. We've got a lot going on. So there again, from the Ford of Youth down to the Audubon Acres canoe launch is 9/10 of a mile. The Audubon Acres launch is the primary spot, but you can put in at the Ford of Youth, especially if you just wanted to come out and do tubing on site that makes a nice, convenient little loop right there, about a mile without ever leaving the sanctuary. Nice picture of the water there. There's a picture of the swinging bridge, which is about halfway between the two access points at Audubon Acres. There's that little beach area I mentioned right there upstream of it, and this picture was taken just a little bit downstream. And there's a map of the trails, just kind of give you another visual on where the takeout point is. The water's flowing this way, so again, the Ford of Youth is up here, 9/10 of a mile paddle down to the main canoe launch directly after the railroad bridge up here. A couple more pictures. This is just showing the water being pretty shallow up at the Ford. Picture looking upstream from there, looking up towards Graysville. And then here's a picture of the launch down at the lower end of the property. You can see they're kind of covered by this tree here, but there's railroad tie steps going right down to the water. You can see the bank's a little steep, but you can get pretty darn close to it with your car. So excellent put in, easy to use. This is just a picture I snapped a little bit between Audubon and Camp Jordan. It's a lovely stretch of creek. Here again, you can see it's pretty wide. The water's moving. It's not stagnant, but it's also not whitewater. Very easy for first-time paddlers, great for families, and right here in the middle of town. There is one little, there again, quote-unquote, rapid, right above Camp Jordan. So the water kind of drops down over these rocks here, but this is, this is as bad as it gets. I've got a couple of videos here of two guys with absolutely no whitewater experience whatsoever going over this thing, which I hope will show you that it, with their, as always, with good judgment, doesn't have to be that big an obstacle. So what we did here, I had both my kids in the boat with me. I put them out on the shore with my buddy, took the boat through just in case we were to flip over, and pulled right around on the other side and picked them back up.
Dad, I found lots of these.
Yep. There they go. Woo!
So there again, a couple paddlers with no whitewater experience. Those rapids can look kind of intimidating, but they're not all that bad. What Colby did in that shot was had Jack sit down on the floor of the canoe. It's always a good idea. It lowers your center of gravity, makes it even harder to flip over. The other thing he could have done would have been to get down and kneel on the floor himself. There again, you're just putting your center of gravity as low as you can. But I hope what we're showing here is that those rapids, such as they are pretty easy to get around. Keep your nose in front of you, and you'll be all right. So here's Camp Jordan. There's two launches here right now. There's one right here. This is West Chickamauga Creek, where it meets with South Chickamauga Creek. So that's that nice big pedestrian bridge on the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway right there. You can see the interstate up here in the corner, and that little rapid I just showed you in the last screen is right here. So it right there above the confluence of West and South Chickamauga Creeks is really the only appreciable rapid in this area of the river. This is West Chickamauga Creek, so here's the main entrance to Camp Jordan. Of course, the arena down here, the pond, all that stuff, the big parking area there. There's a launch right there that'll put you onto West Chick. But if you're coming down South Chick, the current is strong enough coming down West Chick, you're not going to be able to paddle up this way. It's kind of a universal theme up and down South Chick as well. It's not that the water is fast moving, but you get through just enough spots where the water is funneled down into one little point that paddling upstream is a heck of a lot of work. It's a lot more enjoyable just to paddle downstream. They've got a really beautiful launch here at West Chick. I'll show you a picture of that in the next slide. The problem with it as it stands right now is that the nearest parking is all the way over here. So you're looking at, well, I measured it out, I think it's about a 300-yard portage to get over here to the launch. So it's a beautiful launch. It's city park. It's wide open, no admission, but you're looking at a pretty good stretch there to drag your boats to get up to the nearest available parking here. Now they may build a road out to that at some point in the near future. I don't know, but as it is today, it's a bit of a stretch. So that's what it is. Here's a picture of that launch. It's great. Then in partnership with the Benwood Foundation, the South Chickamauga Creek Greenway Alliance. Fantastic. This is West Chickamauga Creek coming in right there, meeting up with South Chickamauga Creek over here. But there again, a bit of a haul to get to that one. So moving on down from there. So let's see, get you oriented here. This is the excuse me, the interstate coming across there. There's Walmart, Camp Jordan down here. There's West Chick coming in right there. There's that little rapid I just showed you. I want to talk about a couple things through here. I know folks who've taken out here before. There isn't a proper launch per se, so I want to cover it more for the sake of being thorough than for making any particular recommendations. So this is the Brainerd Road crossing over the interstate. There's Hooters, there's Sirgoonies, Sweet Basil, Harbor Freight's right up there. I know a good number of people who've taken out here before. Again, there's not a kayak launch proper. I think they drug up through the woods to get to Hooters. There again, I'm mentioning that more as like an emergency takeout than a, hey everyone, plan to take out at Hooters. The right way to do it, of course, would be to ask for permission from Hooters before using their parking lot. That's people taking advantage of a friendly property owner is how launches get closed off. So there again, I would recommend taking out elsewhere along the creek, or at least asking for permission before you use that. But if you get in a pinch, thunderstorm comes up, it can be done. So coming down along the greenway, which is here on top of the levee, there's two obstacles I want to talk about. And the first one is the biggest obstacle on South Chickamauga Creek. So it's definitely something you're going to want to take into consideration as you're planning your trip. The second one, I should have labeled this rapids, more so than a blockage. There again, it just depends on how high the water is. In a past trip we got down there, it really didn't feel like we could get over it. This last time I did it, probably could have made it. Opted not to because I had, as usual, a kid in the boat with me and just trying to take the safe way through. And then I'll mention this as well. I'll come back to this in just a sec. This is the original stream bed, not where the creek has been diverted along the levee. This can be paddled as well. It's deep enough you're not going to be dragging bottom through there. You're going to see more wildlife than you are out here in this much more artificial channel. There's more shade. It's going to add a little bit of distance onto your trip, but really not that much. So if you want to take the more scenic route and bypass this little rapid right there, it is an excellent option. So here's that first one. This is a sewer pipe that runs across the width of the creek. This is a picture taken upstream from the water level. You can see there's all sorts of debris washed up against it. It's got this protective cage that ideally keeps the pipe from being hit by big logs during a flood and being ruptured and spilling and making a big nasty mess. Unfortunately, it's getting eroded. The banks are eroding on both sides, and there's now quite a bit of the pipe that is not protected by the cage anymore. From the paddler's perspective, it's a tremendous obstacle. So this pipe is, I would say, probably 5 feet in diameter. So it's a pretty good scramble to get up on top of it. What I've always done is gone around on the left-hand bank here. It's not ideal. It's a heck of a lot easier if you've got a buddy with you or a light boat. It can be pretty tough. Debris like this, just kind of a messy situation. The concrete that's been poured on both sides of the bank is pretty rough. I really tried not to drag my boat on it the last time we went through there because it's just like sandpaper. That's a real quick way to put some texture on your hull. It's a bit of a mess. If you feel like contacting the Wastewater Treatment Authority of Chattanooga and putting some pressure on them to construct a more paddler-friendly alternative, such as putting the pipe underneath the water, or at least installing a better ramp for paddlers over here on this bank, you are welcome to do so. Hopefully, sometime in the future, this will be less of an obstacle, but as it is today, it's a bit of a stink to get over. This is that rapid I mentioned just a little bit downstream from the big sewer pipe crossing at the levee. You'll see there's a fairly decent channel through here, through in the middle that I think you could make it through. I opted not to. The last time my daughter and I went through there, I had her in the boat, just didn't feel like chancing it. It's a bit of a diagonal shot to get basically from this bank over here to the open spot, and there again, the water level has a lot to do with what these rapids are going to look like. If the water was up a little bit higher, this might have been all smoothed out and you could have just coasted right over it, but that rock right there in the middle made me just nervous enough, and I was kind of curious about the other channel back around the other way that we did that. So here's an overhead shot. That's the little rapid right there. This is the airport over here on this side, obviously, and but that original stream bed for South Chickamauga Creek runs over here. We ran into no obstacles back there. Everything was deep enough to paddle. It was a lot more natural than what most of the levee looks like, which is obviously a very man-made, artificial part of the creek. We saw a lot of wildlife back there. When we paddled through, the entire section was full of buffalo fish who were making their spring run at that time. So we saw literally thousands of 2.5, 3 foot long fish, all just loaded back up in there when we paddled through. It was really incredible. Freaked my daughter out a little bit, but I thought it was pretty cool. So those are your options there. If you want to bypass that little rapid, take a more scenic route, right back through there along the edge of the airport is a great bet. Or if you just want to plow on through, that's the main channel running down through there. This is just a picture down below the levee, and I would say, as pretty a creek as South Chickamauga Creek is, this might be the prettiest section of it. You've got high hillsides on both sides, not a whole lot in the way of obstacles, rapids. You definitely don't feel like you're in the middle of the city. It's just a beautiful section of the creek. Moving on down here, we're in the Lightfoot Mill Road area. There's a whole bunch of bridge crossings over South Chickamauga Creek here in real quick succession. Now, none of them really present an obstacle to paddlers. There's none of them that you have to portage around. You do have to dodge in and out among the pillars there, but it's really not too problematic a section. I think this one down here is the bridge crossing for the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. There's another sewer or water pipe crossing up here. Fortunately, that one's much higher than the one up at the levee, and you can just go underneath it. I've never had any trouble there. That's a main railroad line right there, and the Lightfoot Mill Road crossing here. Now, there is a little bit of a rapid right down below that, pretty similar in nature to that one I showed you up above Camp Jordan. It's a straight shot through. It's just kind of fun. But there again, if you're a novice paddler and just really uncomfortable getting into any sort of quick water, you could always get out over here on this sandy bank, portage around it, and just be on your way down farther downstream. This is Sturchey Farm, is a city park for the city of Chattanooga, so it's open all the time, and it's a great place to put in. There's the old farmhouses right there. There's a good bit of parking. The South Chickamauga Creek Greenway runs farther down that way, and then farther down towards the river on there. The ramp itself is right down here, so you're looking at probably about like a 50-yard portage from the closest parking spots down to the ramp there. It's a nice wide ramp, really easy to use. There is a little bit of a portage there, but it's an easy spot to take in. I can tell you what to do, but I take out here most of the time when I'm paddling down South Chickamauga Creek. From there down, it gets fairly industrial. Just a personal opinion. Most of your scenery wraps up kind of up here. So, but you can go a few more miles down. We'll move down that way. That's just a couple pictures there at Sturchey Farm. So that's that nice wide ramp, super easy. You can fit a whole bunch of boats down there. Really easy to take a bunch of different boats out if you've got a large group going. There's a picture of the old barn there, and one of the signs, Trailhead Hour, Sunrise to Sunset. But there again, a City of Chattanooga park, so wide open to you. All right, so down here, Amnicola Highway, and the very last takeout for South Chickamauga Creek is right down here, part of the Tennessee Riverwalk. I've got a closer picture here, I think. There we go. So this is actually a floating dock there. So you'll pull out alongside it there, and you'll have to carry your boat up. There again, I mean, it's still less than 100 yards to get up to the parking area up here. Can't remember off the top of my head. I don't believe there's a fee for parking there. Pretty sure there's not. It's been a little while since I've taken out there. But that is right there where South Chickamauga Creek empties out into the river. You could put in there and paddle out into the river, paddle up a ways and come back here, take out the same point. Really pretty flat water at that point. From Sturchey Farm on down, it's a lot easier to paddle back upstream than it is from Sturchey Farm up. You're pretty much out of the rapids, out of any significant current, and so if you wanted to put in Sturchey Farm here or the river park, paddle all the way down to the river and paddle back up, it becomes a lot more doable here in the lower stretches of the creek than it is in the upper. You can move up against the water a lot more easily than you can up around Camp Jordan, Audubon Acres, Graysville, places like that. Okay, now I've got these distances up on our website as well, but just sort of giving you some overall context for how far things are up and down the creek. Now, I haven't talked about Ringgold or the Elsie Holmes Nature Park in Catoosa County. Just full disclosure on that, there is not a proper access point at Elsie Holmes. It's a fairly steep bank down to the river from there. Now, you can make it work anywhere if you want to badly enough, but there's not, again, a proper launch there. So I've got that more thrown in just sort of for context than as a recommended put-in takeout point. But if you were to put in at Ringgold, there's a city launch on the south side of town. It would be just under 31 miles all the way down to the river. So today we've covered from Graysville down to Audubon. So if you did Graysville all the way down to the river, would be about 18 miles. So that's a pretty full day's paddle. You could do it, but you'd have to be booking it. No fishing if you want to make that in one day. You gotta keep on moving. You got the 1 mile loop there at Audubon, only about 2 miles from Audubon to Camp Jordan, very short trip there. Camp Jordan to Brainerd Road, really short, only about a mile. Brainerd Road down to Sturkey Farm, just under 8 miles, and then Sturkey Farm down to the River Park, just a little over 2 miles. So this next one, and there again I've got this graphic thrown up on our website under things to do, paddling South Chickamauga Creek at ChattanoogaAudubon.org, if this isn't where you're watching this video from. So this is shuttle time, what it would take you to drive from one place to the other versus how far it is by creek. And so you're starting at Graysville and working your way on down, Audubon, working on your way on down, Camp Jordan, Brainerd Road, and Sturkey Farm. So there's a whole lot of different paddles that you could do here on South Chickamauga Creek. None of the shuttle runs are that bad. I mean, you're looking at a max of 20 minutes for any of these things. Graysville all the way down to the River Park. I mean, that's almost 20 miles of paddling for a 20-minute drive. And that's each way, of course. But really just a very accessible, very easy-to-use creek. Obviously, I'm pretty fond of it. There's another website I want to make you aware of that is extremely useful if you're going to be paddling on South Chick or really on any number of creeks. The U.S. Geological Service has water gauges on a lot of creeks. I'd never really paid much attention to that before I got into paddling, but I will tell you it is extremely useful. What I'm trying to show here with this graphic is how quickly the water level in South Chick can change. So I would say typical summer flow is between 5 and 4 on this the stage level over here. I'm not as good at keeping up with the flow rate over here. Between 5 and 4 is kind of what I look for when I'm going out, especially taking kids with me in the summer. 18 foot is flood stage, you see up there. But 9, 10 feet. Don't make that your first time on the water. Put it that way. I'm not a whitewater paddler. I don't mess with it. I'm looking for it down here. I'm not saying it can't be done, but don't put it to the test at that level on my account. It also drops back down pretty quickly, so you can see I had a pretty significant rainfall, and this purple line here is tracking sort of the prediction for where the water level is going to be over the next couple days, and within a couple days you're back down to roughly what it was before. So if you're planning out your trip and you're wanting to go out on Saturday and you're going to get 4 inches of rain on Thursday or Friday, just give it a couple days. Maybe sneak in after work, that later that week, because it's probably going to go down pretty quickly. But just develop sort of a feel for what these numbers mean in relation to you and in relation to the creek as you're heading on down there, and keep an eye on that. There's a link to this on our website, or you can just Google search South Chickamauga Creek water gauge. I believe the water gauge on South Chick is located down around Brainerd Road. I might be mistaken on that. There's one on West Chick as well, and numerous other waters. So really a very, very useful tool for paddlers. Another service I want to plug for is a company we're working with here at Audubon Acres. This is Canoe, which is based out of Chickamauga. They offer rentals and shuttle services on West and South Chickamauga Creek. So if you're wanting to go paddle on your own and don't have a buddy to run shuttle with you, to leave a car down at one end and drive you up to the other, whatever, give these guys a call. Their rental rates right now, and this may change, so maybe here's what they are right now: is $35 for an individual kayak, $45 for double kayak, $35 for a single. And then shuttle services are $10 per boat with a minimum of $20. So if you want someone to come pick you up at Audubon Acres, drive you up to Graysville, let you paddle back down to your car, that makes it really easy, you know, because then you don't have to worry about running back up, picking up a car, getting back down, drop your buddy back off. Just saves you a lot of time, and you burn a lot of that in gas pretty quickly. So 2canoes.com is the website. There's their phone number. There is a discount on rentals with them for Chattanooga Audubon Society members. So make sure to mention that if you're an Audubon Society member when you make a reservation with them. They are by reservation only. So if you're going to be either renting or using the shuttle services, give them a call ahead of time. They don't have a permanent storefront here at Audubon. Don't just show up and expect to hop in a boat right away. You do need to call ahead. So backing out here, going back to that whole watershed map. So there again, we started at Graysville, worked our way down about 4 miles to Audubon Acres, Camp Jordan about 2 miles down past that, another mile down to Brainerd Road on down past the levee. So those obstructions, that big sewer pipe is going to be is it right in there somewhere? I think it's something like that. That other section running right up against the airport right there. Pretty section. All the railroad crossings and whatnot. Sturchy Farm down here and the River Park, Riverwalk all the way down below. So there again, about 19 miles from Graysville all the way down to the river. It's a beautiful stretch of creek, and I highly recommend it. So, just to give you a couple recommended trips, you know, fitting a couple specific criteria here. So, if you are looking to put in and take out at the same place, here's a couple recommendations. You could put in at Graysville above the dam. Like I said, you can paddle upstream. I would say at least, you know, 2. Maybe more miles, depending on how high the water is, and paddle right back down. The dam backs up the water so that there's not much current. You could paddle up and then back down pretty easily. Audubon Acres, of course, we've got the 2 access points at the same property. They're about a mile apart. So if you just wanted to do a short paddle or something like that, tubing, you could put in at the upper and get out the lower, and you'd still be at Audubon Acres. Sturchy Farm and below, the water's still enough that you could paddle back upstream pretty easily. So, like I said, you could put at Sturchy Farm and get down to the river, then paddle back up. You could do the same thing at the River Park. Not much current down below there. So there's kind of what I'd recommend to you if you're looking to put in and take out at the same place on South Chickamauga Creek. Here are the 2 longest stretches I could find that don't require any portage. So if mobility is an issue for you, maybe your boat's a little heavier than you can lift, here's what I would say are the 2 longest stretches that you can do. So Audubon all the way down to Brainerd Road is 3.15 miles. Sturchy Farm to the River Park is 2.17. So the 2 main obstacles I'm referencing here are, of course, the dam at Graysville and then that sewer pipe down at the levee. If there was a place just a little bit right below that sewer pipe on the levee, you could get in some pretty significant distances there, but there isn't at this time. And again, at Brainerd Road, there's not a proper launch per se. Camp Jordan would be the more established takeout point. We do allow tubing at Audubon Acres. There again, it's 0.9 miles around the sanctuary from the upper to the lower access points. You're looking at between an hour and a half, depending on how fast the water's moving. If the water's at flood stage, you're looking at about a 5-minute trip, and I don't recommend it. So. And then, of course, I want to give a quick shout-out to our other sanctuary, which is in downtown Chattanooga, Audubon or Maclellan Island, which has a campsite on it, pictured here in the lower picture as part of the Tennessee River Blueway. If you're looking for an overnight destination as you're planning your adventures on downstream, that would be the first camp spot you'd get to. The Tennessee River Blueway goes on down below there, goes from Chickamauga Dam down to Nickajack. I believe it's 40, closer to 50 miles from dam to dam, and much bigger body of water, a lot more motorized traffic than on South Chickamauga Creek, but a very cool stretch nonetheless. I I think that's all I've got for you guys. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, our website with more information is ChattanoogaAudubon.org. You can call us at Audubon Acres at 423-892-1499. I'd be happy to help you sort of plan out your adventures on South Chickamauga Creek or wherever the river takes you as best we can. So thank you for watching, and we'll hope to see you out on the creek soon.